Hey guys, this is Courtney back from Willis Bloom, and I am here today to talk about a really big transit that we are all going to feel significantly, which is the Venus retrograde. And I just wanted to make a couple of announcements before I jump into the topic. Number one, I hear your comments about my audio. I am not quite sure why there is a particular issue. I mean, I can't really sit here and face the microphone like this the whole time. So I am going to have my editor increase the volume in post-processing, and hopefully that works. Let me know down below or give me a thumbs up if it works. The other thing is I wanted to announce that I am offering a product for a short amount of time, which is basically like a love analysis reading. And I'm going to have a limited quantity for these available before and maybe during the Venus retrograde, which lasts for 6 weeks. And we're going to get into that in a sec. But this love analysis is basically your guidance for the upcoming 6 weeks for the Venus retrograde, and more from a natal perspective as well. So we're going to be looking at your kind of love analysis. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at your relationship planets and see the energy that you are meant to navigate with this, like the kind of people that you're meant to attract, the kind of experiences that you're meant to go through, what you're meant to learn from your relationships. We'll look at significant transits in the next 6 months to those relationship planets as well, and kind of get just a full analysis of what is coming up for you in love. We'll also, again, look at the Venus retrograde and pull cards around what that will mean for you, as well as look at the astrology. So we're just going to kind of deep dive into relationships and how you can best kind of nourish your own soul, meet your own needs, and show up in relationships with others in the best way possible. So if you are interested in this, definitely you will want to purchase that sooner rather than later, because I will likely run out every other time. I have sold out of my seasonal readings. So if this is something that you, again, are interested in, then I will promote it just a couple of times. This is the first time I'll promote it. And then after that, I'll post it and then email it out to my people. So if you are interested, definitely make sure you act now with the first promotion. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So Venus retrograde, this is occurring from July 23rd to September 3rd. So it will be retrograde this whole period of time, and it will move direct on the 4th. And this is 6 weeks. And it's basically whenever a planet goes retrograde, it appears to move backwards in the sky. So it's not actually moving backwards, but it becomes somewhat disorganized in its energy and more internal. And I have a whole video on retrograde planets, which is something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about in detail. So you'll definitely want to check that one out. Maybe I'll link it down below if I remember, or you can just search my channel, retrograde planets, and I talk about them in the natal chart as well, which is, again, not something that people really discuss very much. So Venus retrograde is a particularly hard planet to have retrograde, and this is because it is a very infrequent retrograde. It only happens every year and a half, every 18 months, and it occurs for 6 weeks at a time, which isn't too much compared to some of our slower outer moving planets. But given the nature of Venus, having it retrograde for a month and a half essentially is a very uncomfortable process. And that's because Venus is a planet in charge of what brings us harmony. It makes us feel connected to other people. It is what is in charge of our ability to really feel like we are present and enjoying life and seeing kind of the sparkle in our eyes. And when it's retrograde, we can feel like we're disconnected from that sense of joy and then contentment and, again, harmony. And we really start to see the flaws that come through the cracks of our society. So let's say you normally are really well rested and you wake up and the sun is shining, and it's really easy to go about your day in that state and face hardships or face relationship issues and come out the other side with an uplifting, positive energy. But what happens when you don't sleep? And what happens when it's gray and it's rainy and maybe it's super cold or uncomfortable? Maybe it's hailing outside. It's like it's a lot harder to feel like you're really getting the sense of joy out of life, and you're really able to absorb everything, enjoy everything, and through all of your senses, through all of your emotions. It's like it's all becomes a little bit tainted. And that's really how I see a Venus retrograde. We all start to see and focus a little bit more on the problems in life. And Venus's energy of rose-colored glasses and again, that sense of satisfaction is a little bit harder to grasp. And that doesn't mean that we're going to be miserable for 6 weeks, but it really does play an important evolutionary function in our lives to have a planet go retrograde, because it gives us the opportunity to recognize where we have been maybe going with the flow a little bit too much and just kind of feeling into things and enjoying things and not asking too many questions. And when Venus goes retrograde, it's really our time to ask the hard questions and receive the hard answers and make decisions based off of that. And this is why so many breakups happen during a Venus retrograde period. The last Venus retrograde happened in January of 2022. So if you remember during this time and into February, there was probably a lot of breakups with people around you, relationship changes, discord. That's very typical for this period of time. So just kind of think back to maybe what you experienced or people around you experienced during that period of time. But it's not just about relationships. It's also about our relationship within ourselves. So how do we nourish ourselves? How do we love ourselves? How do we give ourselves a feeling of being worthy and being confident and showing up like we're the shit, which is very Venus and Leo. And if you don't have that, why don't you have that? What is the basis for that crack in the foundation? Where is that coming from? What maybe unmet need did you have as a child? Or what are you not doing in your life that you need to do to take care of yourself to feel more confident? Or maybe there are certain value shifts that you need to undergo as a person. Maybe you've been spending your time and money in one specific area of your life, or other areas of your life that don't really align with who you are and who you want to become. And maybe now it's time for a bigger shift to align with your actual core values. And so we can see our relationship with money as well really come up to the surface. How much am I worth charging clients? How much do I need kind of like praise and recognition from the world? And do I give that to myself? This is a very Leo specific topic with Venus retrograding in Leo. And so many of us, again, will really be looking at our money, our relationships, and our own relationship with ourselves. And even more importantly, with beauty, femininity, and women in general. All of those things are really called into question. And if there are cracks in the foundation or weaknesses in the foundation in any of those specific areas of our life, they will really be apparent. The light will shine through them, and we will often make decisions to end or change that area of our life because it becomes unbearable. And that's really important because we need to get to a point of so much discomfort in order to finally create change instead of just going with the flow, like I mentioned. This is really not a time to create big aesthetic changes because, of course, Venus is a planet of beauty. And when it's retrograde, when the energy becomes disorganized, we can find ourselves attracted to the peculiar, to the different, peculiar. It's a hard word to say. Anyway, and we might just find that the choices that we make for our aesthetic image is not really what we want long term, or they can sometimes go awry. Like if you get a haircut, you can feel disappointed in that haircut during this period of time. And actually, I'm just now remembering that I have a hair appointment scheduled for this period of time. That's very unfortunate. I should have looked at that beforehand. So if that is the case for you, just kind of be aware that the decisions that you make now in terms of your image are not always going to last. If people come up from your past, if relationships pop up back up to the surface, or if you meet a new person and start dating them during this time, they might also not last, or they might be coming in here to teach you a specific lesson. So it's not to say don't engage in it, but just more so do not have all of your eggs in one basket, expecting that to be your lifelong partner. And then Venus goes direct and you're like, whoa, I did not see this. So just kind of the standard with all of with Venus retrograde. These are very kind of standard protocol. And then I'm going to get more into the nuance of what it will look like for each sign and what it will look like particularly in Leo. But these are all very important things. And I find it fascinating that Venus is going retrograde after we've had a nodal shift. And so the nodes are shifting signs. I think it's on the 17th. Into Aries and Libra. And the reason why this is significant is because the South Node will be in Libra, which is a sign ruled by Venus. So I think it's going to be a particularly uncomfortable, and maybe not, this doesn't have to be uncomfortable, but I think it's going to be a particularly enlightening time for our Libra fellows and people who have maybe a strong kind of Venusian energy, or maybe multiple planets in Libra in their chart, because those particular areas are really going to be areas where you are doing a lot of reassessment. So we all have Libra in our chart. We all have every single house, or every single sign in a house. So just look at what house you have Libra in, and you're going to start to see, okay, that's maybe coming under question or scrutiny. And then on top of that, wherever you have Leo, which is where Venus is retrograding. So these energies can kind of coalesce into an interesting mix where you might see combinations from different areas of your life coming together under a particular theme. And you can start to really analyze those areas of your life based off of that theme. So yeah, I think this is a particularly interesting time to have a Venus retrograde pretty much paired up with when the nodes first shift signs. And that's always interesting that's always more potent because the beginning and end of the signs have a little bit more energy to them. So Venus retrograding at that time is just fascinating to me that that's overlapping. So I think we're going to see maybe a more potent Venus retrograde than normal because of this. And maybe one that's a little bit more focused on what we are willing to let go of in our relationship dynamics in order to create much more confidence. With the North Node being in Aries, there's already a focus on the individual. And I pulled a card asking, like, what's one animal that would represent us throughout this retrograde? And I got the crocodile. And I looked up what the spirit animal meaning behind this is, and it says individuality, protection, and strength. So I really think that this Venus retrograde is trying to help us come back to our sense of individuality. Even more so with the North Node being in Aries and Venus being in Leo, which is the sign that the sun rules. The sun and Leo being so intricately woven together are really about us representing our own individual identity. Who are we as a person? Where do we want to go in life? How do we up-level and empower ourselves to tackle our dreams, our goals, our ambitions, and the way that we are meant to shine our unique gifts and traits out into the world? That's a really big question for us over this next year and a half, and especially over these next 6 weeks. And because that's the highlighted question for us, the ways in which relationships, codependency, partnership, or trying to do things for what's better for the group, or listening to other people in your life and having like this chatter of voices in your head, those are really the things that are going to start being analyzed. Do I want to listen to all these people in my life? Do I want to put others first? Or do I want to be selfish? Do I want to do something that I think is going to help my life progress, maybe at the expense of my relationship? Or, why is this person getting in the way of my growth, or these people? Do these people align with my growth and my future? Are they enhancing or taking away from that? And if they are taking away from that, then there are serious decisions that need to be made in how to go about those relationships, or even to have them or not. And so our individuality, if that is being threatened for peace, or for the balance with other people and harmony with other people, or to be in a relationship with someone else, that's really going to start teetering into the opposite direction of choosing ourselves, choosing our individuality, choosing our dreams, because this is the perfect moment in history, in astrology, with the alignment of these planets, for us to be fully coming into our own strength and power, and again, shining our gifts. And sometimes there are people in our life that come in for a period of time and help us get to a place where we're ready to accept our own power, but they don't have the potential to carry us forward with them while we're fully embracing that power. And there are people that know you as a certain person and aren't going to understand how to fit into your life when you start to evolve further. And that's a lot of what this energy is about, is we need to understand more of ourselves. We need to understand how we stand on our own 2 feet and support these dreams and this full expression of our gifts and ourselves over the way that we understand relationships and partnering up. So I hope that that's making sense, because I feel like I've kind of been wording things a little bit funny, but I think you guys might understand what I'm saying. I find it interesting also that Venus is going to retrograde from 28 degrees of Leo all the way down to 12. And again, this is happening from July 23rd to September 3rd, 6 weeks. So during this period of time, when Venus starts to slow down to go retrograde, it really comes into a place where it is not moving fast at all. And astrologers will call this stationary. So that's, of course, going to happen at the beginning degrees of the retrograde, in particular 28, and then even more so onward. So having a planet be stationary or slowing down in a particular sign is like when you're on the highway and everybody's driving and everyone's moving forward, and then all of a sudden there is like somebody stalled out on the side of the road, or somebody had an accident, and everyone starts rubbernecking and they all slow down or stop at that particular point to look at what is happening. And this is the same energy of planets. When they go retrograde, it's kind of like they're going back the same route that they came, and they're kind of looking at what route they just went on. They're seeing things that they maybe missed before, getting more of a sense of knowing and learning from that path. But when it starts to station to go retrograde, it is stopping and focusing at one particular point. And 28 degrees of Leo in Sabian symbols, where this energy is becoming really potent, where we're stopping and looking, is talking about, or the Sabian symbol phrase is talking about many little birds on the limb of a large tree. And essentially what this means is like lots of voices, lots of people talking, and maybe sometimes getting in your own head. And one of the websites I was looking at was talking about, what is the caution here? What is the problem here that we may need to become particularly aware of? And whenever, again, a planet is stationed at a particular angle in a particular sign, it really wants to draw our attention to that for a particular reason. There's a reason why this is happening. And 28 degrees of Leo with this Sabian symbol is talking about maybe being confused by all of these outside perspectives. And it literally says being confused or immobilized. So there is some, especially if this is hitting a personal planet in some way, but there's some area of our life where we may have felt immobilized, where we may have felt overwhelmed by outside opinions or what other people are advising us, or just considering too much outside of our own heart's desire. And that's Leo. Leo really wants us to tune into how we feel about something, what rings true for us in the most genuine way, in the most childlike and pure way. Am I drawn to this or am I not? And then as you get older and older, you start to hear other people's opinions and societal rules, and you start to lose your own ability to be in touch with how you really, really feel about something. And when it pauses here, it wants us to ask, how do you feel when the noise is completely cut away? And based off of that emotion or that connection with whatever this is, how do you want to move forward? Only based off of how you feel, and not all the other voices or everybody else's truths, and this just buzzing of energy and a cacophony of sounds. It's like silencing everything and turning within. And the the reason why Venus is pausing here is it's giving us this potent energy and this moment of silence to just hear our own truth and our own feelings about something. And this will be, again, especially strong if you have any planets around 28 degrees of Leo or any of the fixed signs. So you'll really get a sense of needing to change something in your life when you have energy at those particular degrees, 28, plus or minus. So this is our time to really analyze what it is that we want as individuals and what it is that we feel like will bring us a lot more abundance into our life, because Venus has a lot to do with the ability to feel like we can really receive from life. But sometimes we block our blessings. Sometimes we block our ability to receive. And we do that by not trying, not living up to our potential. We do that by not loving ourselves and not feeling like we're worth it. So we block it energetically or even emotionally. We do it by having the safe relationship instead of the right relationship. There's so many ways in which we block our blessings and we don't allow ourselves to fully receive love, money, nourishment, amazing food, sustenance, like whatever it is, whatever Venusian topic it is, there's something that we need to let in a little bit further. And it's not just anything. It's like we need to let in the right thing for us, which is the Leo energy. It's very personalized. It's very individualized, what each of us need in any particular moment. And no one else can tell you what that is. And so it's our job right now to really tune in to what it is that we need and want to receive so that we can actually become the most abundant, prosperous, generous, amazing people. Because once we fully align to what we want and we allow it all in, imagine how much you can produce, how much you can give, which is extremely Leo. Like Leo is a very generous sign. So I think in many ways we're awakening to how our decisions have maybe kept us in feelings of lack or feelings of being separate from ourselves or separate from our desires, always having things at an arm's length. And this is our chance now to feel like, what changes can I make to who I am or what I'm doing in my life to actually accept that I can have what I want? Maybe not right away, but I can work towards it and I can have it. And I think many of us will have awakenings and enlightenments to the things that we have kind of boarded up over our hearts to distract ourselves or to, not let things in so that we don't feel the full weight of not having what we want. Leo is a very pleasure-driven sign. People say it likes to be dramatic and perform and be seen. And I think it's really coming from the nature of being born with very specific gifts and talents and just wanting to share those with the world. That's really what it is. And it brings us pleasure to live out our unique gifts. I was teaching this after school kind of daycare thing with these kids, and I noticed that they loved the subjects that they were good at. Like they wanted to do more and more and more of the things they were already good at. And I was like, okay, well, that doesn't really help because you need to get better at math and you're not really that good at math. But there is something inherent in us as human beings for our pride, for our ego, to feed the part of ourselves that we're naturally skilled in. But sometimes people will come in, or society or whatever limiting belief is there will come in and thwart us from going further into the thing we're already really skilled at. And you can really start to examine where that might be for you, because whatever is in your fifth house can tell you a lot about that. And even wherever you have Leo can tell you a lot about that. So regardless, there's a lot more there. That's a whole reading, but regardless, there is more to explore here for all of us as individuals, what we are super, super good at naturally and where we have maybe neglected pouring into that area of our life. And I think it's time for us to do that. And we can actually even maybe achieve financial abundance from that. Maybe not. I mean, I did pull a King of Pentacles when describing this, and it feels like many of us have the potential to increase our financial wealth. And even if it's not from that particular skill, it's from the development of who we become because we put energy into that skill. Like, let's say you are somebody who, actually, I know someone like this who is a mover, but he likes to play volleyball outside of that. And it's like, maybe he doesn't play volleyball for a living, but him developing that skill, him giving the time to the things that he loves, is also what builds up his life and helps him have more energy and confidence and belief in himself to generate money in other ways. So it all comes back to us in all types of forms of abundance. So it's really important that we kind of take the time to ask ourselves, what do I really, really love? What brings me pleasure? What brings me joy? What's a talent of mine? What feels natural to me? And allow ourselves to invest in that, make plans and time and like strategies to actually be able to invest into that so that we can reap a more abundant life. Another thing I think we're going to realize as Venus retrogrades in Leo is where we have been deceptive with ourselves. What areas of life have really weighed down on us, especially in relationships? What factors or situations have weighed down on us and have felt like the opposite of pleasure, that have felt like work, that have felt strenuous, that have felt unnatural, that maybe felt like an uphill battle. And those particular areas will become unbearable and will ask us to turn our strategies around those or our commitment into those and turn it on its head, because the way that we're currently doing things is not going to be working. And I think for many of us, that's going to be a realization that, this relationship isn't the right one for me. This friendship isn't encouraging my growth. This friendship is actually making me feel this way. And the thing about Leo, there's a lot of like pride, as I mentioned, and ego and identity that comes in with this. So we really want a relationship that helps further that part of our life in a healthy way. You don't want to become too egoic, but you don't want a relationship that you're embarrassed of. You don't want a dynamic with somebody else that you're ashamed of or that you feel like doesn't add value to your identity and to your public image. You want that to be received well by others. There is a social element to this, Leo, that is concerned with other people's opinion. And I'm not telling you to feed into that necessarily, because I am saying the opposite, really, which is just to tune into your own truth. But if your body and your ego and your mind is trying to tell you that I'm ashamed of how I am in this dynamic, or how this, my relationship with money is unfolding, or even my confidence with myself, I don't want to tell people about this, I don't want people to know, that is an indication to you that there is a serious issue there and there needs to be a resolution. And maybe that's, again, not the right person for you, or maybe not the right way of relating to yourself. And you need to have some serious kind of check-ins with yourself about that and how to adjust that in a way that feels like you can be proud and you can be seen for those qualities. So there's probably a million more things I could say, but I think we'll just get into it when we go and look at this for each of the rising signs. And of course, you can also watch for your sun sign. And of course, if you are interested in that relationship analysis reading, I will have that link down below. So definitely check that out before it's sold out. And let's go ahead and jump into that. You can see the timestamps in the description box. And I love you guys. Hey guys, this is Courtney back from Mills Bloom. And up first we have Aries, rising and sun. So for you guys, this Venus retrograde is happening in your 5th house in Leo from July 23rd to September 3rd. And I'm getting a pretty clear message with the tarot and astrology. So the first card that I pulled for you guys was the Empress in reverse. And one of the things that it's talking about is, it says, creative blocks and dependence on others. The 5th house is where we have our most creativity, as well as Leo energy in general. And so I think that many of you guys may be wanting to start something new, but there might be some kind of energy that is still percolating. And this Venus retrograde period is usually a time to kind of reassess, go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves what information we might be missing, or if we need to maybe gather some confidence, or if there is some kind of way that we can uniquely combine our gifts to create something special moving forward. So there may be some ways in which you guys have kind of been relying on other people to lead the way forward. And we are shifting again into the nodes being in your sign, especially the North Node. And so this is what is going to really, again, put an extra emphasis on you as a leader of your own life. And so if there has been any kind of area of your life that you've given up a little bit of your power to someone else, and maybe it's led you to feeling like you don't really know the next steps for yourself, this is your chance to come out of that. I don't think that this is the time to try to collaborate with others, because I did pull the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Working alone is highlighted. Doing things on your own in your own way is highlighted. And I think that's what will help the creative block loosen up and for you to gain access to exactly how you want to move forward. Because I am seeing some kind of new project birthing for you guys. And I really feel like that is going to particularly come to light probably by like October time, because Venus is retrograding until September 3rd, but it's not actually going to hit new ground. It's going to be retracing its steps all the way back to where it is today until October 6th. So that's probably when you're going to start to have this fully fleshed idea of what is next for yourself. And I really feel like you're going to be truly beginning something entirely new. And this, I think, is going to be a combination of either like other things that have interested you, or a unique concoction and mixture of your own gifts, or a few ideas coming together. I'm just really getting the sense that like you're going to create something new, but it might be out of kind of old pieces and new things coming in, or maybe different areas of your lives fusing together. But this is really something that you're meant to do on your own. And you're going to start having ideas come through for you around this time. And it's really not, it doesn't necessarily imply that you need to have all the answers right now. Again, I feel like after September 3rd and even until October 6th, you might not really have that very clear vision, but I think you're going to start feeling much more inspired and feeling like you have this new path ahead of you, because you really do. The next card that I pulled was the Knight of Swords, which is a very fast-moving card, and it says ambitious, action-oriented, driven to succeed. So I think you're going to be entering into a phase as Venus moves direct, where you're going to be moving very, very quickly towards something that you want. And I think that you're going to be called to show your commitment to this area of your life. I pulled this Justice, Fierce, and then Commitment card, and She Who Battles. So I think that having the North Node in Aries in your sign, and which is of course the sign of war, ruled by Mars, the planet of war, I think you're really going to have to battle or defend what you want. And that just might be you're defending it from procrastination, you're defending it from a lack of confidence, you're defending it from other people's opinions. Whatever it is, I think that you're setting out on some type of new path, new creative path, to bring maybe old talents and skills all together into one, and not really being encouraged to do this with other people or to take other people's advice. And you may have to fiercely commit to whatever this thing is. And again, this is the whole retrograde period where I think you're going to be analyzing it, but more so the birthing process is likely to take place once Venus moves direct. And especially so once Venus hits new ground on October 6th. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aries, rising and sun. So I'm very excited for you. If you kind of have an idea of what I might be talking about, I love to hear your personal story in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a relationship analysis reading, I am offering that for a small number of people. So it's first come, first serve. If you're interested, that will be in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus, rising and sun. So for you guys, this Venus retrograde is really going to provide you guys with a lot of beautiful gifts. And I'm very excited about this for you. I've been noticing some really positive shifts for my Taurus people. And what I'm getting the sense of, and that's probably because Jupiter is in your sign, so this is really a time for huge growth for you guys. And one of the things that's coming through very strongly with some of the cards that I'm pulling is the idea of untapped potential. And this is a Venus retrograde in Leo, which is in your 4th house. And the fourth house has a lot to do with our more kind of instinctual nature, who we are behind closed doors, who we've always known ourselves to be, our history, our ancestry, our roots, what comprises the most intimate parts of ourselves. And there are sometimes stories wrapped up into that we might tell ourselves. And this is very much related to our family and our past, that these stories come about. Like, this is what I'm capable of, or this is the kind of life that I live, or this is the kind of patterns that I have. And when Venus retrogrades, it's really our chance to check in with those. And one of the words that instantly popped up into my head was discernment. So discernment is based off of truth and making a decision that feels true and aligned with ourselves, and that feels really wise. And so I think that you guys are leveling up your discernment. Maybe you have more decisions that you're making, and you're deciding to progress as an individual more and more and more, and unlock some of that creative potential or that untapped potential that Jupiter in your sign wants you to unlock. And you need discernment about what to do, what to commit to, what to grow and prosper in order to reach that potential. Because if you invest into the wrong areas, you know that that might not grow. And so what I think is coming for you guys is this Venus retrograde period of being able to check in with those stories and patterns and actually decide if you want to not commit to those anymore, or look at them differently with a discerning eye around what you believe and what you don't believe, and what you want to emotionally invest in and what you don't want to emotionally invest in. The fourth house also has a lot to do with our sense of security and our comfort zone. So Taurus has a little bit of a problem with having somewhat stuck energy in the familiar, especially if you have a South Node in Taurus. So if you have quite a lot of planets in here in the sign of Taurus, then this is your opportunity to ask yourselves how you can expand your comfort zone to reach for that untapped potential that I'm talking about. I think that you guys are right now very driven to succeed. I pulled this Knight of Swords, which is funny because Aries had that too. And then I have King of Swords and King of Pentacles. So you guys are driven to succeed, but you're driven by truth, by knowing what it is that you really, really want. And this Venus retrograde is going to make that abundantly clear. And it's going to make it abundantly clear how maybe some of your comfort zones or habits or patterns or stories that limit you are actually the very thing that's keeping you from what you desire. And so I think you're going to have like a truth bomb kind of energy come through for you. And this King of Pentacles is really our chance to build long-term success and security for ourselves. So you are really stepping into a leadership energy over your own domain and dominion in life. And I think that some of you guys might find that your connection to the right people will help facilitate this. Maybe you'll have a new relationship come into your life as a result of this Venus retrograde, or strengthening of existing connections, or reanalysis to how you've approached relationships and your existing relationships that will help you fortify the right ones that will be your support system, because Jupiter is a very social planet, and Jupiter being in your sign is trying to connect you to the right people. And this Venus retrograde period is helping you go within to make sure that you don't have any stories or patterns or blockages that will prevent you from fully feeling the support of these relationships that are trying to enter into your life or that have already been in your life. I also see with the otter and the snake card that you guys are feeling like you have a lot of ideas, again, inspiration, kind of energy at your fingertips, and it's time to do something with that energy. And it's coming up with the snake card, which talks about Kundalini energy. It's coming up from within. It's almost like it's been bubbling underneath the surface and ready to explode in a positive way. And so this Venus retrograde period is, again, going to help you check in with your priorities in your life and your priorities with how you manage your own internal world and your emotions, so that you have the potential, or so that you can tap into that potential and use the energy constructively. So like, let's say, for example, you're super invested in a relationship that isn't good for you, or family dynamics that are taking away from your energy, or issues within the home that are distracting you. And this is your chance to address that, to face that, to analyze that and make changes so that you can free up the energy that is rising up from within you for the correct creative outlets for yourself that will help you in the long run. This is very much about longevity for you guys. And the way that you handle your internal affairs and your home and family life is very much going to be something that you need to reassess and change in order to make sure that this growth is possible for you, that Jupiter really wants you to have. It's not just going to get handed to you. You have to make these changes. And that might mean that you have uncomfortable conversations with people in your family. That might mean that you make uncomfortable decisions with people that you live with, or that you decide to change up the way that you've been going about your home life or your routines, or how you even process things emotionally. I have two other cards, She Who Listens, Understanding, Witness, Compassion. So really having compassion for yourself and others is important, even though that's sometimes harder to come by in a Venus retrograde. I think it's trying to create more of a sensitive relationship with yourself. What's funny is all the tarot cards I'm pulling were Swords and Pentacles, which is very masculine, very practical, very much about like creating something for ourselves in the mind, then bringing it into reality. And it's not a Cups card. It's not emotions. And so this card is really trying to say, like, listen to yourself and your heart first. And then from there, you can create this thing out into the world. But you can't bulldoze that part of yourself. And this Venus retrograde is going to help you really listen to yourself emotionally. And maybe that's where you'll start to spot where you've had the possibility to grow and you've kind of curtailed it or pulled back, whether that's emotionally in a relationship or out in a career, whatever it is. I feel like there's been some kind of pulling your energy back, and this is your chance to really listen to yourself and see where you want to move forward and maybe why you haven't, and how you can listen to yourself and give yourself compassion through the reasons why you haven't, and change them. And you change it with love. This other card that I have is She Who Persists, Perspective, Defiant, and Persistent. So I think that there is something in your energy with this King of Pentacles and Knight of Swords that is really trying to push you forward. And again, this is the Jupiter in your sign throughout this year that's really trying to push you forward. And you're going to have to persist outside of this comfort zone. You're going to have to break that bubble. And it says defiant. So there might be ways in which you have to be defiant towards others, but I really have this feeling it's more so either towards your family or towards yourself. You're defying the things that you told yourself you maybe would never do or couldn't do, or you had beliefs constructed around why that's not for you. And also something about Taurus is it can be quite solitary. Even though it's ruled by Venus, it's a very autonomous, independent sign, and that is encouraged during this period of time with the North Node in Aries. However, with Jupiter in your sign, these key relationships are coming in, and they want you to grow in the way that you also are partnered with people, or the way that you allow people to support you. So it's not entirely independent for our Taurus risings and suns. So there might be something in that as well that you guys are needing to push back against if you have found yourself a little too solitary, a little too independent. So just a little bit of balance, nuance here, because both are necessary. We want to be independent, but we also need support. And that's where this energy might come in. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Taurus. If this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. I love to read your comments. I love to see kind of what is brewing for you and maybe what you feel like this could represent for you personally. And if you want to help me out, please don't forget to share with other people, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. And if you want a reading about the relationship analysis or any other kind of coaching, that will be linked down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini rising and sun. So this Venus retrograde for you guys is happening in your third house, of course, in the sign of Leo. And this one, I mean, anytime we have a planet kind of moving through the third house, it is asking us to check in with the way that we think, the way that we communicate, the way that we process information. And as it's related to our mind, and of course you are a Gemini, a very Mercury-based sign, there is a need to kind of reevaluate the way that you have handled your thoughts. And I think it's also a time in which you might be able to look at where you might have addressed or avoided conflict in relationships, or even things that you value as a person. Like if you've really not been in alignment with those values, and how you've gone about kind of like justifying that, or maybe just straight up ignoring it, and it's manifesting as potential anxiety. So one of the first cards that I pulled for you was the Knight of Wands. So I feel like you guys are in a phase of wanting to really move forward. And this is likely socially as well, because Venus in the third house is a social energy. It wants to meet new people. It wants to go out there, create new connections, and see the world in, even if it's in a smaller sphere than the ninth house, it wants to see the world. It wants to connect. And I feel like that's been thwarted because you guys are resisting some kind of ending or change in your life. So that can be so many different things, but for many of you guys, it could be related to relationships. Maybe you're needing to establish new connections at this point in time, or maybe the way that you have been showing up in different areas of your life are not allowing you to put energy towards the important people that you have in your life, or making new connections. But there's something here where I feel like you guys are experiencing mental anxiety and resisting change, or knowing that something needs to change. And ultimately, when Venus goes retrograde, it helps us become really aware of how we have been maybe critical of ourselves or others, how we've had maybe limiting beliefs and perspectives that are attracting situations or relationships that are not necessarily like the highest alignment with us, and they are reflecting more our limitations that we see in ourselves. So you could be attracting the kind of wrong people. You could be very, again, aware of the inner critic, and it's time for an internal transformation that will then spill into your external relationship life. One of the cards that I pulled for you navigating this energy is the raccoon card. And the raccoon is very interesting because it wears a little mask over its face, and it's not wanting to be fully seen. And so again, there feels like there's some kind of misalignment in relationships where maybe you are connecting with people who don't really see you and your value and your highest self, because maybe you're having trouble seeing that in yourself. And this is your time to become very aware of your own thoughts, your own critiques of the self, and how that's reflected in your dynamics with others. I think some relationships will change or end because of these realizations and this awakening to your own thought patterns or communication styles in relationships, to the choices that you make and the people that you decide to connect with as well. I think this time when Venus goes retrograde, this card says curiosity, destiny, and search. This is a great energy because the third house, Gemini, are all very much related to curiosity, open-mindedness. So that is something I will say as well. I think Venus going retrograde here is going to help you kind of step outside of the box of what you're normally attracting or what you're normally thinking about, and approaching life through a sense of curiosity rather than expectation, I think is really going to help you through this transit. I also pulled the future, choice, and judgment card. So I do think many of you guys are needing to make a choice around certain dynamics where you are meant to end relationships or end the way that you are within a relationship. This judgment card, it just feels like some priority is going to have to shift for you and refocus into another area of your life. And that might be relationships for some. It could be hobbies or other things for other people. But there's something that you're going to have to make a choice about that you've been resisting the change or the end of. And it's time to transform that and put this like the energy that you're using up, that you're trying to resist a change with, that is suddenly going to be freed up, and you can put that into your openness and curiosity and explorative nature and your relationship with yourself and your own inner dialogue. And that will help you align with the right people, the right situations and opportunities, so that you can feel most fulfilled and seen in your dynamics with others. Because the third house is about connection and the way that we kind of all weave together and learn from one another. But with this raccoon card, you're presenting a face that is making people disconnected from you because there is an inauthenticity there. And that can be many different things. It can be, you know, the way that you critique yourself, again, attracting the wrong kinds of people, or you being afraid to show your heart to somebody, or having preconceived notions about what other people are like. There's so many ways that this can manifest, but the face is somehow coming in here and blocking that ability to learn from other people and connect and create the right relationships. So this is your time to analyze what that mask is and release it, release whatever is blocking you and that needs to change, and step into an open-minded curiosity for the time forward. So that's what I'm saying for you, Gemini. If that resonates, don't forget to comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want a reading from me, coaching from me, check me out down below at willowswim.com. And I also will link the reading for the relationship assessment, and there are limited quantities. So definitely want to act sooner rather than later. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer, rising, and sun. This Venus retrograde in Leo is happening in your second house. And I'm getting a very clear message for you with the cards that aligns with the second house. So first of all, the second house in astrology is about money. But ultimately, I see a lot of the second house as skill development, because how do we make money? We have certain skills that we monetize, that we sell to people, that we create things or whatever we do. And it gives us financial resources. It gives us security. And it's the ultimate form of security, because it's not just having money right now. It's the ability to make money at any time because we have a skill to use. So I feel like what you guys, one of the messages coming through for you guys very clearly is that there are too many things that you have left kind of uncompleted, undone. I pulled the Knight of Wands in reverse, which says passion projects and then scattered energy. And then I also pulled this fire ant card. And one of the things that the fire ant says is make it a habit to always finish the projects you start. This is from a website I'm reading. So what happens when we're hasty and we start lots of passion projects and we're excited about them? We don't always see them through. And the second house, while it's also about skill development and seeing things through, it is also equally about consistency. It is about longevity. It's about staying power. And there might be something in your guys' life that you are kind of spreading yourself around with. Like you're not committing to one thing and fully seeing it through, but you're kind of jumping from here to here to here to here, and the energy is not being completed. And with this Venus retrograde in Leo, I think you're really going to check in around what makes you feel passionate, what makes you feel most alive, because we're going to need enough passion to be able to decide to dedicate ourselves to something. And so you might be reassessing your values, reassessing those joys, those passions, so that you can 110% commit. And there is the Six of Swords next. So this is talking about a transition or changing something. So I feel like you guys have been changing things too much. And really what you need to do is decide to just focus on maybe one or two things that you can 110% finish and complete, and end the cycle of always like looking. And this Venus retrograde, you might still be looking, you might still be kind of coming into your own idea of what you really, really want. And that's okay. Like what you really value, what you're really working towards, how you really want to make money, for example, or if you want to pursue another interest that has a potential to kind of bolster your confidence. I feel like you guys are on the search for that right now, and that's okay to still be in that phase during a Venus retrograde, and that's really what it's for. But once we come out of Venus retrograde on the 3rd, or even on the October 6th, when it finally reaches the degree at which it started the retrograde. So it starts to finally hit new ground in Leo. I'm hoping that by then you guys have a much clearer picture of what it is you're building in your life. Because saving money, what are you saving for? You know, like, or if you're spending money, maybe it's just like scattering everywhere. And it's like, what are your values? Why are you spending in alignment with your values? Are you saving for a specific thing that you are valuing? Are you investing your energy into projects that are scattered and you're not finished and you don't actually have like a true north in these situations? And so when it comes to your resources, your time, your money, your energy, where you're investing them, it's important to use this period of time to kind of play around, experiment, and discover, and then commit to 1 or 2 areas where you can really give all of your energy towards so you can finally get some results. And I really see that with this 8 of Pentacles, which is, of course, about skill development, about consistency, about repetitive tasks. It says repetitive tasks and mastery. So it's like, how do I keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until I get really, really good at it? But if you're always seeking new and you're always seeking adventure and you're always trying a new thing and turning over a new leaf, you're never giving yourself the full chance to actually see if you can get something out of this. If you can put enough consistency into something to produce fruit, to produce, you know, whatever it is that you feel like you can offer the world. And this is what I'm hoping that you're getting out of this Venus retrograde period. So the Ant card, a lot of consistency, but consistency that is passionate. So this is not just you working because you said you should be doing this, but it's because you've really assessed within your heart what you value, what's important to you, and you will be able to persist despite the challenges because you know that you are emotionally inextricably linked to this thing and that it's an expression of you and it's something that will help you as a person. I also pulled the future and choice card as well as a love, hope, and relationships card. So maybe some of you guys are needing to think more about the future, more about what you love, more about what brings you hope, and more, I mean, there might be something about relationships here as well. Like, what are you valuing in relationships? What are you accepting from other people? Do you truly own your own worth? And is that displaying in the connections that you have? It's kind of an alternate message, and you might have to make choices about relationships in order to reflect this newfound self-confidence that you're going to find as you commit more to your personal development as well. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. I know that's kind of a lot of messages in one, but hopefully you can rewatch that if it's too fast. Don't forget to comment down below how this resonates for you. I love to read your comments and it helps my practice and other people's. And if you want a reading from me, check me out at willowswim.com. I also am offering my relationship analysis readings for a short period of time. I will link that in my bio, my description, sorry. And please share this. Please give me a subscribe, like. That really, really helps my channel. And I appreciate that so much. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. So this Venus retrograde for you guys is happening in your first house. And it's really a time in which you guys, I feel like, are going to be able to step into more of your own essence, as I've been talking about for Leos for a while. But in order to do that, when there's a Venus retrograde, we first have to kind of figure out what has been standing in the way of our own confidence in expressing ourselves. What has stood in the way from us feeling like we can pursue the things that we really like and enjoy? Or what has stood in the way from us even understanding our own selves? So the very first card that I pulled is the Four of Cups, which came out in reverse. And so I really feel like there are things in your life that you have been pursuing that are not really living in alignment with who you are and your authenticity. And if they are, there's something that I feel like could be maybe partially aligned, or maybe there are things that are more aligned that you can add on to your life in addition to what you're already doing. So this is really giving you guys a chance when Venus goes retrograde to check in with your values, to check in with your desires, to check in with how you want to be out in the world. And if there are things that you are really holding yourself back from, this is your time to ask yourself, how can I pull away from what's not in alignment? How can I kind of stop investing into that thing in my life and put it in towards something that actually is more in alignment with me? And I think for some of you guys, this could look like collaboration. especially when Venus moves direct, but there may be ways in which you can work with other people to bring about your dreams and desires. That's because Venus is a planet associated with relationships. And when it's in your first house, there are people in your life that can help build you up and your status in the world, or your dreams, your desires, or your health, whatever it is that you're trying to enhance. There are people in your life that can be an asset to that can really show you maybe how to do that, how to go about that, or they can offer you resources, or they can somehow be supportive for you. But there is a need to also look at maybe who you're deciding to pair up with. If you're already collaborating with people, if you already work with people, how are those relationships adding or taking away from your life? Are they the right people to be in contact with or to be asking for support with? And if you're not pairing up with people right now, it's time to look in that direction and consider that as a potential. Because again, this is the way that you can grow as an individual. Another thing I'm seeing is the King of Cups, which is really about you being more diplomatic, which is you being more emotionally centered within yourself. And I think that this is going to be the result of the Venus retrograde. You might find that you are out of balance emotionally initially, that your relationships undergo a little bit of tension, or that you feel like things are not as just or as fair initially. And then as a result of it going retrograde, we are going to do more analysis into how we can fix those things and come out of this retrograde feeling more balanced, fair, diplomatic, and emotionally attuned with ourselves. Also, because this is in your sign, which is one of the most creative signs, I really feel like you guys are coming into your own essence in the way that you are expressing your originality or your own creativity. And I feel like it's a time for you guys to embrace change, embrace newness and adaptability. And that might mean that new things enter into your life or old things leave your life, and being okay with that and not trying to kind of hold on to a rigid past way of being, because this retrograde is really helping you come into a new phase of your life, a new added layer of your identity. But you have to, when it goes retrograde, you have to let go of old versions of your identity, of old attachments. And so I really think that the more agile you are, the more you will be able to tap into your, again, originality, your essence, your creativity. But if you're trying hard to maintain things the way that they are, and you're not willing to look at them, scrutinize them, or release them, then you might find it hard to tap into that very open-minded, spontaneous energy that will help you explore more of yourself. The two animals that I pulled for you are this bear card, which is talking about our courage and ability to evolve and be open-minded, which is exactly what I was just speaking about. And the bear is also coming out from a long winter. So this is you maybe coming out of a time of not fully expressing parts of yourself, and really asking yourself why and how you can go about things differently so that you do express yourself more fully and more creatively, and not hold back. And again, be open-minded about what you have to do in order to not hold back, in order to actually pursue things courageously like you say that you want. I also pulled the dragonfly card, which talks about our agility and ability to think on our feet and make quick changes in life. I'm just reading that. So I think this is exactly what I was talking about you guys being willing to almost go to like a metamorphosis and evolve and release and let things go. And that might mean some things come out of nowhere. That might mean, things make different turns than you thought they were, but it's really trying to lead you towards self-realization. And sometimes you have to go through the ups and downs, the twists and turns to enter into that phase of self-realization. It doesn't come from doing the same things you've always done. It comes through evolution, change, discomfort. And that's really what you guys are going to notice during this period of time. But at the end, you're going to have a lot more of emotional tact, a lot more of emotional expression, a lot more creativity. And I think you'll find that your relationships and connections will help support and bolster who you were destined to be. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Leo. If that resonates, please don't forget to comment down below. I love to read your comments and see how it pertains to your life. Give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, and if you want to have a reading from me, I will link that down below. I am offering my relationship analysis reading for a short period of time, limited number of people. So if you want that, you can access that in the description, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. For you guys, this Venus retrograde is happening in your 12th house, of course, in the sign of Leo. And for all the groups I've been pulling, an animal card that represents this part of the journey for you. And I found it really interesting that you guys got the unicorn card, because part of Venus being in Leo, and especially retrograding in Leo, is we will ask ourselves, what makes us special? What makes us unique? And how do we actually represent that out in the world? And if a unicorn does anything, it is representing its own individuality. I was also looking up what the spirit animal meaning is behind it, and it says being faithful to yourself, having a strong sense of self, being kind and compassionate and helping others, and recognizing the special magic that distinguishes you from others. And I feel like that's a really beautiful representation of this journey in the 12th house, because the 12th house is extremely compassionate and giving and selfless. And that's really the energy that's coming through this unicorn card. And on the same hand, it is a time and opportunity for us to journey within and maybe actually feel like we are doing some of the deeper diving work in asking ourselves what we really want in our lives, what we really want to bring out about our specialness and our uniqueness, holding true to that, even if other people outside of us maybe kind of fight against that, or if it's not accepted by society, it's still allowing yourself to express all these individual qualities. And there's kind of a lot of background behind this, and something I'm writing about in in a book that I'm writing right now. But basically, the 12th house are character traits, and I made a whole video about this. Actually, that will be really helpful. I will link that down below. You can just look up 12th house repressed you on my channel. It's one of my most important videos. But the 12th house represents character traits that were repressed during our childhood. And this can come out in many ways. It can be something that was not fully represented in a healthy way. And that can mean that it's over exaggerated in a dramatic and negative fashion, or it could be character traits that weren't really encouraged by your family or were actively discouraged and kind of shunned. And so what happens is in the psyche, those Leo qualities for a Virgo rising in particular will really struggle to show themselves. So like those really unique aspects of ourselves, the part of us that wants attention or admiration for our gifts, the part of us that's very kind of showy and takes up space and stands tall and is super confident in our essence and is very full of self, which is very sun, which is very Leo. Those parts are kind of pushed away into the psyche and compartmentalized and not fully owned. And so what we can do is often with that is we can kind of also push down our gifts, or even sometimes our ability to own our gifts and own our specialness. And so when Venus goes retrograde here in your 12th house, I really think it's going to give us the opportunity to open that box up and look inside and ask ourselves how we can own more of our essence and own more of ourselves, and maybe have to leave behind some of the programming that we inherited as children, that this is actually a bad thing, or this is actually an unnecessary or unhealthy thing. And we can start to distinguish, maybe there was an unhealthy version of that and we get the healthy one, and we can start to see the nuance, and we can decide to integrate that more into our psyche. And so I think that this Venus retrograde is really helping us learn how to value Leo energy in general, because Venus is representative of what we value and what we hold dear, and also things that we can often see in other people around us. So we don't have to attract so much Leo energy in people around us if we can start to integrate it into ourselves, because when it's not integrated in the psyche, we project that onto other people. We misunderstand other people, especially with that sign. We can be especially turned off towards that energy. I mean, it kind of depends on your whole chart, but that's often the case. And you can further create that divide in your relationship with that energy. And so this is our chance to kind of reclaim our power and understand, again, the benefits of embodying the confidence and the selfishness, or the full of self, that Leo and the sun, which are the planet associated with the sign, which are very important to the individual. Like we all need a strong sun. We all need a strong sense of purpose and being and understanding our own gifts and essence and all those things that we offer to the world. And that's wrapped up in the expression of Leo energy. So I think that this is our chance to kind of dive deep into that in our lives right now. I also pulled the Page of Wands, which is talking about our limitless potential, this kind of free spirit energy, and really feeling like we're having lots of ideas come to us. So I think that this 12th house energy with Venus retrograding here is kind of helping us look at, again, the potentials of life, because the 12th house is really, it's where things go to end. So maybe some of you guys will have relationship endings, or some kind of really big realizations about the current people in your life, or the current values that you have, or the current hobbies, or even aesthetic things that you work towards, beauty things that you work towards, or whatever else you value. Those things might come to an end or transform, because if they're no longer useful in your life, it will become very evident and you will let it go. On top of that, though, I think that you're entering into a womb phase where when Venus goes retrograde, I'm really seeing us become very kind of internal and going back to this premature stage in our life where it feels like we're in the liminal state where anything is possible because nothing is quite landed in its spot yet. And so this might not be for every area of your life, but I think many of us are going to go back to the drawing board to some extent and ask ourselves maybe bigger, more purposeful questions. And we might have a lot of creative ideas. And again, all these kind of timelines and possibilities start to emerge in this period of time. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right time to actually go out and do all those things. It means that we're in that creative brainstorming phase where lots of things come to us and it's not solidified by any means. And I really see that with the stillness, purity, and quiet card. I think many of us are going to be maybe socially more kind of pulling back from the world. I think it's a time for us to have that sense of stillness, that purity with spirit, that connection to our own self, our own desires, and just kind of have that pure energy where we're not being biased by outside forces and we're really just getting excited about all these things that we can conjure up, but not committing to lots of things. So it's like a very internal process, not being in the world doing all of it yet. The second card I pulled was a Two of Wands, which is talking about personal goals, inner alignment, and then fear of the unknown. So I don't think that this is a stage for necessarily planning and implementing because of this card, but I think it's really about getting clear on who we are and aligning with who we are and how we can start to express those gifts. But there can sometimes be, again, a fear of the unknown, which this card is bringing up when we see something with the 12th house, because the 12th house always has really hidden, secretive elements to it. And so when there is a strong 12th house activation, there's a lot that we have to just kind of move through blindly and trust and surrender. And this is one of those times where we're in, again, a little bit of a womb incubation phase, and we're not really sure how things are going to be when they come out into the world. And so I feel like this card is really illustrating that we're not supposed to kind of try to force or push things right now, but really trust the process and cue in or tune into that inner alignment piece. And I think that's what this is really for, because maybe there's been things out of alignment in our life, and this is a chance to get that back on track. We also have the Knight of Swords, which is talking about being restless, unfocused, impulsive, and burning out. This could be the case, but I feel like there's something in our lives that may be kind of stalling that needs adjustment or ending. And this card is really just indicating that it's almost reaching the end of the rope, especially with this Nine of Swords card where we're having anxiety about things. You know, it's like we can't settle on a specific, we can't settle our mind, basically. And so there is a lot of this kind of overactivity in the mind that can happen right now if we're trying to force like a big plan or have all of our ducks in a row or really have everything figured out. This is not that necessarily a time for that. It's more so of a spiritual development time where you're becoming more aware of your soul and seeing what is in or out of alignment, doing some healing, and having lots of ideas and inspiration come to you, and maybe making some decisions, but more so about what to leave in your life, what to not further invest into. And I think these cards could talk about maybe a resistance towards some endings, or trying to kind of move things forward when it's not the right time, and feeling like you're reaching an impasse, or kind of turning your wheels, spinning your wheels. So there's something here where I feel like it's trying to say to not be so scattered out externally, and to worry about all the things that we don't see yet, but to really take this time to go within and check for alignment with things, and use this period of the Venus retrograde to almost like taking a little bit of a step away from life and goals and social expectations, and really kind of dialing those expectations down so that you can hear yourself and have some open space, white space in your life to tune into your spirit. This Venus retrograde will be direct on September 3rd, I believe, and it will finally also be at the point where it is at the start of the retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo on October 6th. So that is when I think we're really going to start to hit new ground and hit our stride. And so have patience with yourself up until September, and even up until October, because of this transit. And that's the gift of astrology. It really helps us give ourselves peace of mind by understanding why it's harder to move through certain things at a time than others. So this is not to say you can't pursue goals or you can't do anything, but this energy is like not the best for having a very, very clear understanding of practical matters and how to solidify them, especially in terms of money and relationships. And I do think some of you might have some relationship endings, but that will be very evident to you on an emotional and intuitive level. And maybe it'll take some time to fully unfold, because the practical material matters seem to be moving at a slower pace with the Venus retrograde. So I hope that's making sense. If this resonates, please let me know. Comment down below. I love to read your comments and about how it kind of correlates to your life. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and that's the same thing, and share with your friends and subscribe. If you want a reading from me, I am offering coaching for a limited number of people. I offer my normal readings, and I am also having a limited time offer for a relationship analysis reading, and I have a small quantity available. So if you want that, I would definitely act now before they sell out. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra rising and sun. So this Venus retrograde is happening in your 11th house in the sign of Leo. And for you guys, it's a little bit bigger deal because Venus is your ruling planet. So to have it go retrograde can make things a little bit more challenging, especially because the South Node just moved into your sign. So it's not necessarily the most supportive time right now for having a lot of really big advancements. I think this is more so a time of deep contemplation. That's really what I'm seeing in these cards here. First of all, let me start off with the cards, then I'll get into the astrology. So having the High Priestess in reverse, this is really about withdrawing your energy. And having Venus retrograde in your 11th can indicate that you may want to kind of withdraw a little bit from social situations. Normally you would want to see friends a lot. Normally you want to feel really social, but I'm really getting the energy of feeling more like you need to tune into yourself, needing some more time alone. And there may even be certain relationships or the ways that your relationships express themselves in your life that feel like they need a little bit of questioning in some ways, or the ways that they've gone about is not perfect and needs some attention. And that doesn't mean that you need to spend a lot of time in the relationship. It more so means that you need to spend time contemplating the energy of that relationship and how it manifests in your life, and if that is something that you enjoy. So if there's certain friends, hobbies, groups, things that you do with people, and you're noticing trends in a group dynamic, or you've noticed that you've tried to belong by doing certain things, this is really your time to check in and ask yourself, is that actually what I really want? Am I living really in alignment? Are these friends in alignment? And sometimes we can ignore our own intuition when we have the High Priestess in reverse about certain people in our lives, and we can ignore the red flags. And this is really your opportunity to address where there have been red flags in certain relationships, especially friend groups, that might have similar modes of thinking and kind of start to look at and parse apart where there is nuance. Maybe you agree with some of it and maybe you don't agree with some of it. And maybe you need to make certain changes to those dynamics in order to not just kind of continue on autopilot and differentiate yourself from a group. And again, withdrawing from a group, from friends, is often an important step in that. So you can actually start to have enough separateness to have more awareness of your own self. So it's really a time of contemplation. I also pulled the Four of Swords in reverse. Both of these cards are about withdrawing. This one has a little bit more to do with like exhaustion. So you might just not have like the social battery that you normally have over the next 6 weeks. And that's okay, because again, this is really your time to ask yourself what you value in relationships and notice the people that you feel like are really showing up and take note of their energy, their behavior, their way of talking, and ask yourself what they bring to your life, because they might bring something different than other people that you need more of that to grow. And maybe some other people are just fine, but they're still like not really doing it for you. Or maybe even there are certain people that you find that drain your energy, and then you'll know that those are not the right relationships to invest in. So when we can get clear on the people who bring value to our lives, we can then know what we want to manifest more of. So again, contemplation, looking back over things, assessing your own energy levels. This is the best way to utilize the energy of a Venus retrograde. I also pulled the Five of Swords in reverse. So if there are relationships that have left your life or that have had issues with, you're really going to see those things come to light. So there's a couple ways this can manifest. So people from the past can come back into your life again, and you may notice that things are coming back to clean up and have closure around. Or let's say you've had a current relationship where you haven't addressed something very important. This is your time to make amends or bring it up and address maybe where you hold resentment, where you hold pain, where you hold things that you haven't disclosed or fully dealt with. So it's really your time to go within and then address it in your relationships to strengthen them, if you feel like those relationships have the potential to strengthen and grow. And again, people from the past could come up where you are able to resolve your differences that maybe once were the reason why you weren't friends, or you broke up, or you separated in some capacity. So it's really our chance for healing and resolving wounding that has been building for a while, that has not been addressed or that has come from our past. And what this is going to do when Venus moves direct is it's going to give you a lot more energy to move forward. I think you're going to be a lot more in control of your relationships. This is a card around willpower, this Chariot card, around action, determination, success. And really what this is saying is that you're having more control over who you want in your life and how those relationships evolve. You're not letting things slide. You're not being passive, which is often a very Libra quality. You kind of let other people maybe take the lead, or you allow life to kind of happen to you at certain periods. It depends on your chart, really. But Libra tends to be more passive. It's ruled by Venus. It's about receiving. It's about flowing, which is good. But in the case with friendships, sometimes we get a little bit too much in the flow, and we actually need to take the reins and decide, this is where our relationship is going. This is how much I'm going to invest into this person. This is how much I might pull back. This is what I'm going to address. And it's a little bit more assertive, which is where the North Node in Aries wants you to be. So that will actually help you network more, achieve more in your life, because these people are going to help facilitate the actions, the energies, the emotions that you want more of in your life, and that will help you get to where you want to go. So it's very important. These relationships are not just here. They are an active, participating and influencing factor in our life and our success. And if you want to achieve certain things, but you have the wrong people on your side, you might not achieve it. So truly, this is a more important thing than we might initially realize. One of the cards that I pulled was She Who Hopes, Love, Hope, and Relationships. And I think that definitely represents what's going on here is definitely a huge emphasis on the people that we love, that we're connected to, and it's creating new hope for more positive connections and more fulfilling connections that are aligned with who we are and where we want to go. I also pulled the Dolphin and the Scorpion card, so we have very different energies. One is about going within and kind of looking at the shadows, looking at the resentments, the pains, the anger and frustration we have that we've held on to for a while, and releasing that, which is a dolphin, releasing it, transmuting it, addressing it, and then allowing that to become playful and light and for the relationship to flourish. So I really feel like it's you guys tackling darkness head on in your dynamics, shedding light on it, and then finding more connection with people as a result of that. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra. If that resonates, please give me a thumbs up and comment down below. I love to read how the comments how that kind of relates to your life. That's really helpful for me. And if you want a reading from me, you can check me out at willisbloom.com. And I will also link down below the relationship analysis reading, which is available in limited quantities for a short period of time. And don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. And again, give me a thumbs up and have a great day. Bye. All right, I'm next to Scorpio rising and sun. For you guys, this Venus retrograde is happening in your 10th house. And honestly, I'm probably the most excited for you guys in particular, just because I was looking at some of the cards and thinking about how this uncomfortable Venus retrograde can actually really shoot you guys off into the stars in a big way, especially because this is in your 10th house, which is obviously something that is really visible in our life. The 10th house is the most visible part of the chart. It's our public image, it's our reputation, it's our career, it's our big life choices that sort of embody our reputation in a way. And I really feel like you guys are going to experience this kind of glow up aspect of your career and your life objectives. But of course, a glow up is not a comfortable process. A glow up requires you to challenge yourself and to do things in a new way. And the first card that I pulled, which is the animal representing your Venus retrograde experience, is the Phoenix. And this is obviously not a real animal, is it? The Phoenix rising from the ashes is already this emblematic kind of image of Scorpios and the transformation that you guys naturally go through in your life, where you kill off old parts of the self in order to rebirth a new version that is stronger, that is less kind of hindered by past pains and all of that. So this is really what I feel like your Venus retrograde is going to do. And in particular, I feel like whenever Venus is retrograding in Leo, it's really trying to get us to align with our creative potential and our natural innate gifts. And I think that you guys have kind of been neglecting some of your innate gifts, some of your creative talents. And that's really what I see with this Page of Cups in reverse. This is a very intuitive, creative, like curious type of energy that I think has been kind of suppressed within you. Maybe you have new ideas, but you're not really diving into them. Maybe you have, creative ventures that you want to start, but you're like, yeah, I'll do that next week, or you don't finish them, or you don't hit publish. There's something where I feel like you guys know it's there and you feel it's there, or you have an intuition it's there, but then you suppress it or doubt it or don't follow through with it. And this is in particular with any kind of big life trajectory goals or career moves. So going to school, getting married, even moving, or having a change of careers, pursuing a different field that is within, or pursuing a different field entirely, or pursuing something more nuanced within your current field. I mean, it can be as big or as small as you want, but it helps kind of move your life forward. That's a 10th house decision. And I really feel like you guys are just like sitting on some kind of creative talent, idea, gift, possibility, and allowing it to excite you, but not allowing yourself to pursue it once it starts building and building, I feel like you're like, nah, I can't do that. And that's what this Magician in reverse is saying. It's an untapped talent card. This is our ability to manifest things. This is our ability to make things happen with our skills and talents all on our own. We have everything we need. And then when it's in reverse, it's like you're not actually using it. You're not actually actualizing it. And you might not be having the proper planning either in place to make this thing into a reality. And it's funny because one of the cards I pulled was saying chains, bondage, and release. And I really feel like what you guys have been doing is putting yourself into chains and feeling like you can't pursue this thing that interests you, or you can't have this thing that you want. You can't, use your talents and skills because that would just be way too cool and way too easy. And it's like, I feel like there are some limitations you've placed on yourself that you don't realize are self-imposed, that you don't realize that you could step out of until Venus goes retrograde. And then you start to see where your personal power has been placed. And sometimes we impose limitations on ourselves that seem like we are not the ones causing them. So really obvious things are like, okay, I'm procrastinating on this thing that I want to do because of my limiting belief. That's like very clearly imposed on yourself by yourself. But there are other things in life that we commit to or that we get into relationship with that then create certain limitations. And we don't, because it's almost like we made the original decision to commit to it, but because that maybe some time passes from that decision, and we have space from our power in making that decision, and we're just involved in whatever that commitment or relationship is. Because there's that space, we start to feel like that thing in our life is always there and we're committed to it and it's here and we owe it something, and that becomes the box in which we're held down. And we don't realize that we can just decide to not have that thing. So an example of this would be, for example, if you bought a house, like let's say you bought a car, you bought something important in your life that you have to take care of that costs you a lot of money, but then it creates certain other limitations where now you can't invest that money into maybe a business that you wanted to start. And you feel like because you bought the house, you're like, well, I have this house and I have this responsibility. So I have this commitment. So I can't just do that thing that I want to do because this is the first priority. This is where I have to put all my money, all my time. And what you maybe don't realize is that you actually have the power to do something about that. And I'm not saying to like sell your house or sell your stuff. I'm just trying to use an example. Sometimes we can get committed or all in or in relationship with something and then see that as the thing or the reason why we can't have what we want or do what we want because we have some responsibility towards that. And in actuality, we decided that in the first place. And there's very little things that are forced upon us. There's not a whole lot of things in the world that we absolutely have to do, no choice. So this is your time to really actually ask yourself what you have to do and what you want to do. And if you can merge the two in some kind of way or make it work so that you're not chaining yourself into a reality that is less satisfying than what you feel like you actually want. And I think this is really about understanding that you have the power to make decisions. And when Venus goes retrograde, it helps us get in tune with our own worthiness and our own creative potential and our own gifts in order for us to then, when it goes direct, take all of that knowingness around ourselves and our own value and do something about it out in the real world. And that is what a 10th house transit is all about. So this is very much the energy for you guys. The next two cards that I pulled are this Chariot card and the Eight of Pentacles. So the Chariot is all about willpower and determination and having self-control and being able to reach some kind of success and taking action to get to that success. So paired with the Eight of Pentacles, which is about skill development and continuing to kind of repeat tasks and do the same thing over and over in order to gain that skill. This is really saying that you guys need to use more of your own willpower in order to commit to something. So if you want something in your life, if you're talented at it, if you're gifted at it, and you feel like that's something you desire to do, it's saying just do it, commit to it, and actually see it through. And you will really surprise yourself at how capable you are and how far you can get. But I feel like some of you guys aren't even giving that side of yourself a chance because of these imposed limitations that are really self-imposed. The last card that I have is resolute, implacable, I don't know if that's saying that right, and determined. So you guys need to get into a place during this Venus retrograde where you feel so determined to pursue the thing that you really like, or to pursue your creative ventures, or to pursue your talents. And the reason why this is important is because if you don't have that commitment to this thing or to yourself, and you're not determined to see it through, then it's never going to happen. And this Venus retrograde is trying to get you to that place of determination, to realizing how worthy this dream is and how worthy you are. And you are destined to have it if you commit to it and you realize that you can have it. So this is really about kind of reframing a lot of self-belief and actually making that happen out in the real world. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. If you enjoy this, please don't forget to comment down below. I love to read how this kind of pertains to your life. That just is the best part. That's the biggest reason why I do YouTube, because I want to see your messages, and they mean a lot to me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, I am offering for a short period of time and a limited quantity a relationship analysis reading. So if you want to check that out, that will be linked down in the description. I offer coaching to a small number of people as well at a time. And I have my normal readings, which are always ongoing. So I hope you have a beautiful day. Good luck with this Venus retrograde. Again, I'm super excited for you to see how you become this kind of phoenix rising from the ashes, transforming these limiting beliefs into something really powerful for you. And I can't wait to see what that does for you. So please comment down below if you want to show me your transformation. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. So for you guys, this Venus retrograde is happening in your 9th house. And this is a house in which we make meaning out of things in our lives. We take the 3rd house, basically information, and we synthesize it, and we create belief systems and basically the schema through which we view the world, which is why it's actually associated with Jupiter and Sagittarius in modern astrology, because both of these signs and this planet has a lot to do with basically our meaning making, our belief systems. So having Venus retrograde here is a chance for us in many ways to look at the way that we have made meaning out of information in regards to Venusian topics, which could be around money, relationships, beauty, the femininity, our own self-worth. And within Leo especially, it has a lot to do with our own creative ventures, our own charisma, our own also ability to tap into kind of our sexy confidence sign. It's like a very Leo thing, our inner performer, all of those things. And basically, Leo has a lot to do with children as well, and the things that we want to birth and create out in the world. So when we have Venus retrograde in the 9th house like this, I think those particular topics are all basically up for grabs in terms of coming up with new meaning and interpretation of past events. And I say the past because retrogrades are really not about taking in a lot of new stuff. It's more so about kind of perusing and looking through our old files and reorganizing them and understanding the themes, the topics, the connections, and again, the beliefs and the meaning that we give to things based off of the way that we look through those old things through a new lens. And the retrograde period really gives us the opportunity to look through that new lens, because really Venus is slowing down and she's turning us more internally. She's having us question things, kind of look at our current value systems and weigh things against that, or change our value systems altogether. Look at our current relationships and ways of relating and maybe alter those relationships, maybe get rid of some relationships or alter the way that we show up in them. And so I really feel like you guys are going to be doing that in terms of like a larger process. You're almost doing like a life inventory, and you're looking at how you've perceived things, and you decide, do I want to continue to perceive things like this? What effect has that had on me? Or how can I make changes to become more conscious, to become more aware, to become more, I guess, of the person that I want to be, instead of accepting the way that I've looked at my life up until now. We have the potential to reframe. We have the potential to decide. And that's really where I feel like things could alter for you. So the first card that I pulled is a Two of Swords in reverse, which has to do with almost like an information overload and not really knowing how to make meaning out of something or to make a decision out of something. So I really feel like this has been the potential or up until now, or even the potential of what could arise during a Venus retrograde. Maybe you feel like you have more questions than answers, more ideas or information than you can really handle and process. Like it just might be a time in which you feel like you're not really sure about things. And that's good, because you have to get into that state of kind of melting everything down in order for it to become hardened into a particular shape. But when it's melted, it can go and move in any direction, and it doesn't have a form, and it doesn't have a deciding kind of way of being. And that's what I feel like we're entering into, but in particular in our mind. So that's the first phase. I feel like you guys are starting to have lots of information, lots of questions, not a lot of answers. And that is when you know you're on the right step. The second card that I pulled just kind of feels a little bit random, and it's the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. And this card really talks about financial independence, self-care, and also kind of needing to balance working and being in the home. And it's not necessarily related to what I was just saying. I mean, it could be, but I really actually am getting a strong feeling of like home and family being very important in this retrograde period as well. I'm just like, why am I thinking that? Maybe because Saturn is moving through your fourth house. That makes a lot of sense. So with Saturn moving through your fourth house of home and family, I think you guys are, for this next 2.5 years, or subtracting whenever Saturn moved into Pisces, but for the next 2 years or so, you guys are really focusing in on the development of your own emotional security, kind of solidifying your family, maybe preparing for things in the future, working on your family relationships, becoming more mature and responsible within the home. If you have children, like how are you taking care of them? Like what are your values and foundations? Those are all things that you're already working on with Saturn in the fourth house. And so I feel like this Venus retrograde might have more to do with familial relationships or relationships with concerning the home or the future of your home. And it doesn't just have to be about those kinds of relationships, but with this Queen of Pentacles in reverse, I think one of the things that might come up for you is how to have that work-life balance with home. Or one of the things that could come up is how to create security, more financial independence for yourself in the future if you want more time at home, for example. And Saturn the fourth is a lot about creating that financial security for your future, like I was saying. So I think that those could be all questions for yourself. Like, not only how am I making meaning out of things in life, but also the ninth house has a lot to do with future projections and visions of what we want and where we want to go. And with the Two of Swords reverse and the Queen of Pentacles reverse, I think you guys might be asking yourselves questions around those things with home and work and with your financial future and maybe your family or where you live or maybe buying a house and whatever that is. And you're kind of confused and you don't really have a set plan quite yet. And this Venus retrograde is going to give you an incubation period of really having lots of ideas kind of sift around, values, all those things, until you can determine how to move forward. The next card I have is a card that has to do with past resentments and making amends, which is the Five of Swords in the reverse. And then I have the Nine of Swords in reverse, which is about inner turmoil, deep-seated fears, secrets, and releasing worry. So I feel like because of Saturn in the fourth house, I don't know why I feel like these are so tied together for you. That's just a very strong message that's coming through, so I'm going to run with it. But the Five of Swords in reverse is really giving me the vibe of I have some things within my family, my lineage, or even in my relationship with those who live with me that has been building for some time. And it's caused maybe, again, some fears and worries or anxieties that need to kind of be addressed and that need to be resolved. with that person. And this is a potential for you guys to, again, understand how maybe you have interpreted things and what you really want in your future, and really check in with your heart, because Venus retrograde in Leo in particular is all about our heart chakra. What do I feel? What do I want? What do I desire? What lights me up? And I feel like there might have been some kind of resentment or conflict or misalignment with loved ones of some nature that has been swept under the rug or has not been fully dealt with, that could manifest as fears. And one of the things that also has come up very, very strongly in these two cards is secrets. So maybe some of the things that you have felt have been a secret. Maybe you have had like a secret desire, a secret wish, or a secret affair, or maybe something has happened that you or your loved ones have kept secret from one another. And I see that with two of the cards, which is the Nine of Swords in reverse. One of the things that this talks about is secrets. And then literally this card says, she who whispered secrets, confessions, and confidant. So some secret I feel like is coming to light, which makes a lot of sense with Venus in the ninth, which has a lot to do with truth. So not only is it how do we make meaning out of events and situations, but what is our truth? And then what is the universal truth? What is that person's truth? And I think that when these secrets come to light, it's almost like we're exposing the truth with the Venus retrograde in any of these intimate, close relationships where we might have, again, pushed things under the rug, not addressed them, not spoken about them, hidden them outright. It's going to look different for all types of people. But I think it's going to really, at some points, have you in your feels, because I did pull this whale card, which is, of course, about going deep within ourselves emotionally, about going into our own psyche, our own shadows, and being able to face those things and kind of swallow those emotions and not let it drown us, but instead be able to kind of lift ourselves up from those experiences. And this literally says emotion, inner truth, and creativity, and wisdom holder, and physical, emotional healing. Sorry. There's actually a lot of words. Keeper of history, importance of family, community, emotional rebirth, peaceful strength, and communication. So all those factors are really coming into play with what I was just saying. I really feel like something is either going on with the family or really close loved ones. And I think some secrets or things not addressed are going to come to light that you guys need to talk about, that might have you have to go through some emotional rebirthing experiences, bringing out the truth, bringing out your deepest needs and desires, or that other person's deepest needs and desires. And it will create much more emotional closeness as you learn how to communicate through this. And I think you will then take the situation and make more meaning and beliefs out of life, or take the wisdom from these situations, which is, again, very ninth house, and kind of be able to run forward with that as a stronger person, as a stronger couple, as a stronger family, in whatever kind of relationship this is. I also pulled this she who prepares, formulates, strategize, and devise. So I do feel like this kind of has to do with the ninth house in terms of it being very future oriented. Like, what do you want to strategize to do to make more security within your family, within your finances for the future? And that might mean that you change certain things in your life in order to align with the actual path that you want. And this is a lot about feeling like, yes, I can have this. I just need to go about things differently. And this card is really telling me that it's time to create that strategy. And when Venus moves direct on September 3rd, and especially even more so when it finally reaches new ground in the sign of Leo on October 6th, is when I think that strategy should be fully implemented, and you'll start to see that there are really beautiful results. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. There seems like a really complex message, but again, very interesting connection here with like wisdom and family and ancestry and close relationships. There's something there that is, again, very fourth house that is somehow connected to this Venus retrograde in the ninth. That's my intuition. That's what I'm seeing. So I would love to see if that resonates with you as well. If this also feels like it's important for you or related to you, please comment that down below, because that really helps my practice. And then I also can see who I'm tuning into as well with these cards. And of course, if you want a reading from me, you can get that at willisbloom.com. I am temporarily offering a seasonal reading for relationship analysis. I have a limited quantity. I only have so much capacity, and all my seasonal readings have sold out so far. So I'm assuming this one will as well. So if you're interested in that, that will be linked down in the description box down below. I also have coaching for a limited number of people at a time and ongoing astrology readings, of course. And if you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing, giving me a thumbs up, and sharing with your friends so that more people can find this work, and hopefully it will help them too. I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn rising and sun. For you guys, this Venus retrograde in Leo is happening in your 8th house. So 6 weeks of Venus retrograde in your 8th house for you and for Virgo rising. You guys in particular, and maybe even Pisces rising, are experiencing the more challenging aspects of this retrograde. Everyone experiences some degree of challenge, but when it's in your 8th house, I feel like there's a huge kind of revelation that you're meant to go through. And that can always be a little bit uncomfortable because we're having to break with what is known, with what we've been doing. And Venus retrograde is already a lot about realizing things around what we value and how that might need to change, or our own sense of worthiness and confidence, which is very much a Leo trait. Or we might have something come up in our relationships where we start to see how the past has really crept into our relationships, and how we either need to end the relationship or change the relationship or confront things in a big way. And so that's what Venus retrogrades bring up already. And then on top of that, being in the 8th house, it's a very emotional house already that has a lot to do with those connections to our past and our family. And that's something that I'm seeing coming through strongly with the cards as well. And just intuitively is that there is a connection with the family here in particular, or with your past, or with people that feel like family at this Venus retrograde. It's interesting because Sagittarius also had that message come through for them. One of the reasons I say that is because the animal guiding you through this retrograde period is the elephant. And the elephant is all about basically like keeping our family safe, keeping our, protecting basically our tribe. And that can be chosen family or like literal family. And it's focused on our past and past generations as well as the future. And it really is a protective energy that's very wise. And in this particular deck, it talks about removing obstacles as well. And I think one of the things that it does really well is it can transform things. And in this sense, I feel like it's transforming energy from your past and your lineage, and it's healing that immensely, especially in relationships with women, because Venus is, of course, the planet associated with women. Venus and Leo in particular might need to transform things that have to do with our own light, our own gifts, our own essence that may have somehow gotten trapped and stuck because of our lineage, because of our ancestors, because of our maybe even childhood issues that we've had or trauma that we've had. It's almost like we struggle to fully have a strong and beautiful relationship with our inner light and our creativity and our childlike self. And instead it becomes trapped and kind of entrenched in shadowy elements. And one of the things that is very common with Capricorn anyway, and strong Saturn placements in your chart, is this idea of having to bear a lot of responsibility or duty and having to grow up really fast. And so having Leo in the 8th house can indicate that there is sometimes kind of trauma around that childlike innocence that I think I mentioned maybe in my last reading or a couple of readings ago for my Capricorn risings, that there's a need to kind of get to know more of your inner child and more of what feels fun and playful and light. And I think that this Venus retrograde is really going to challenge that for you guys, because I think that there are some ways in which that inner child has been really bogged down by painful events, and it has kind of it's gotten stuck. It really feels like it's gotten energetically stuck, almost like with tar and quicksand or something like this, where it's being held down and held into place. And this elephant, I feel like, is really trying to come and pull that inner child out of wherever it is. And this is also going to help kind of burn the past in a way, like really truly burn let go of things. That's really what I think this Venus retrograde is about, is letting go of these emotional pains and things that have, or issues with your family or issues with your past that have haunted you and have made it hard to really feel like it's just easy to be, again, that light and innocent kind of child that does what it wants to do. It's like it feels like there's a lot of constriction there. And so I think that's really what I'm seeing this elephant as a remover of obstacles. It's removing obstacles from your past. That's really what I feel like it is. Emotional obstacles, things that continue to trigger you in the present, things that continue to weigh you down. And I really feel like this Tower card as the first card representing this transit for you is good, because it's about change, upheaval, awakening, revelations. And then I also got the Judgment card, which is equally about that. It's about rebirth and revelations and awakenings and inner calling, making big judgment calls. So some of you guys might have some big decisions to make. Some of you guys might have some changes thrust upon you, or some very kind of fated events happen. That's not going to be true for everyone. It's really depending on how aspects of your personal planets, but these are potential energies that are very disruptive in nature, but ultimately bring this awakening and realization that will help release this energy that you're stuck in from the past. Because it's almost like you have to see it with new eyes, or this dirt has been really, really compacted and needs to be shaken up. The ground needs to be shaken up through some kind of earthquake almost, so that the sediment becomes loose, and so you can start to use that soil for something new. You can plant something there. It's not hardened, it's not stuck. And that's really what I feel like it's happening for you emotionally. It's happening for you in connection with your most intimate relationships. This is possible with a partner as well, or family. I really feel like there's some very deep roots to this. And so I think that it absolutely has to do something with your family, but it might be presenting itself actually in other relationships with friends or with a partner or with somebody else that you're very intimate with or very vulnerable with. You actually might see those threads and patterns from, family wounding that come up in these dynamics. And again, it's all really coming up so that you can fully release any kind of resentments, pains, and stuck energy that has built up emotionally. What I find is interesting as well is that between these two cards around awakening and rebirth and change is we have the Eight of Pentacles, which is a card of like kind of doing the same things, really building up skills and talents by investing time and energy into something. And for me, this is because it's in the 8th house, it feels like you're doing the inner work. It's really calling you to reflect and actually like ask yourself the deeper questions, or see a therapist, or read a book. It's saying that in order to have this full circle moment and this rebirth, you have to actually put in effort to do it. And that this Venus retrograde, it gives you the setting, it gives you the ingredients, but you have to put it all together and actually put in the work. So sudden changes and things might happen to you that kind of set the stage or create that earthquake kind of change up chaotic energy. But then it's up to you to decide what you do with that. It's up to you to then make meaning out of that, or work on that, or do some internal processing. And then you can use that energy to kind of move your life forward in a really beautiful way. Another card that I pulled is She Who Is Wild, Untamed, Wild, and Mysterious. So this really feels like life for some of you right now. I'm especially starting off with the Tower card and me getting this imagery of the earthquake and this kind of like really wild natural event that impacts you in a big way, but that you don't have control over. The mysteriousness of fate and destiny, and the way that some things can be unearthed and really brought to light. And I feel like you guys are entering into a phase where you are going to be confronted with parts of your psyche, parts of your inner world, or even things that are externalized that for you might trigger those parts of your psyche, external events that feel like they're uncharted territory, or that feel new for you, in the sense that not that they haven't always been there, but just that you haven't familiarized fully yourself with that these are wild and mysterious parts of yourself that you are getting to know through this process of change that is happening to you. And it feels truly like you are looking at all aspects of the self. It's almost like if we have, okay, my theory is that each planet in the chart represents a part of our personality, and they all have their own individual identities and needs and wants and beliefs and backstories and all that. And they all develop differently, and sometimes they work together, sometimes they work in contrast, and you can see that through aspects. And this is what I do in my coaching sessions, kind of bringing those together. So she who is wild to me is showing some kind of aspect of the psyche and of the self that you may have always had operating in your life, but you haven't ever tried to tame it or talk to it or get to know it. And so it's kind of been maybe running on in the background. And so I really feel like this Venus retrograde in the 8th house is your chance to get to know that every single part of the self that is running behind the scenes, that wants a little bit of attention, and not to tame it, not necessarily with that goal, but it's almost like to channel it instead. So I feel like taming is trying to break its spirit, and that's not what you're going to be doing. I feel like you're going to be having awakenings and revelations that channel maybe wild energy within you that maybe was used to hurt you in the past or cause strife within your relationships or emotional distance or upset or whatever it was. And it's taking that energy and channeling it into a positive outcome for yourself, channeling it into a direction or a way that is healthy, that is supportive, because it is being given the necessary attention and focus, which is this 8 of Pentacles energy that I mentioned. So if you do want coaching from me, then definitely let me know. I'll have that link down below in my description box, but that can obviously help you with this particular energy. So yes, channeling your wildness. And it's funny because Leo is represented by the lion, the king of the jungle, the king of the zodiac in many ways. The sun is represented the king. So this is the part of ourselves that are like very proud and tall, and there is a wildness to it. And I feel like that part of you is there. It's just also kind of crippled by fear at times. And it's time to let it out a little bit more in a way that you enjoy, which is a channeling aspect. Okay. I also pulled a bunch of other cards for you. I don't know why you guys got so many. We have the Knight of Pentacles, which is interesting because this has a lot to do with like work and routine. And the 8 of Pentacles does as well. This very kind of consistent energy of like, don't stop trying, keep working at something. So that is also a message coming through that maybe you're going to be going through some big changes and maybe even emotional turmoil at times and facing certain parts of yourself and relationships with others. Maybe that's all happening. I think these cards coming through that are telling you to consistently work are saying to work on yourself, but also if you're having a job or if you're trying to finish school, if you have a project that you really want to see come to light, this is saying to not give up and to continue to work on that, because even though all this is happening, this could also be the thing that kind of grounds you and helps you feel confident in yourself. So this is saying to have a routine. So that might be, not as easy to do amongst this kind of chaotic energy, but having some kind of routine in your day, whether that's just meditating or having a certain time that you're trying to eat by, a certain time to wake up by, whatever feels achievable for you. I think that's one of the most important things right now, because sometimes with Venus retrograde, 8th house energy, we can struggle a little bit more with our mental health, feeling emotionally connected to ourselves and others and feeling confident, and having some kind of consistent routine or work effort is going to help you maintain that a little bit better, since it's harder to reach right now. I also pulled the 9 of Wands in reverse, which is talking about feeling overwhelmed, feeling defensive, feeling paranoid. So again, this routine I feel like is truly going to offer you some kind of grounded stability amongst those deeper kind of turmoil feelings. And this is interesting. That's talking about defensive and paranoia. This is very much relationship emotions and relationship reactions. So if somebody is saying something to you, you become defensive, or if someone is doing something, you become paranoid of how they're treating you or whatever that is. So again, I feel like it's going to really bring up like the shadows of your relationship dynamics in particular to be worked through, and having this consistent routine is going to help you stay sane in your own mind. The last card that I have is the 3 of Pentacles, which is again about disharmony and not working well with other people, not feeling aligned with other people. So if you are trying to live with people or do something like travel with somebody, or if you're trying to create a project with somebody, this is where I'm seeing like, I think that there could be power struggles. I think that there could be ways that you trigger each other. And again, this is really a time to reflect on your shadows, do your inner work. There's so much to be gained from this, but it can be not the best time to see eye to eye with people and work with people. So this is really telling you to make sure that you don't try to invest too much in working with others right now. If you have the ability to say no to that, if you have the ability to maybe take a few weeks to kind of do things more so on your own, this is a great opportunity for that. And then just know that things that do come up naturally in relationships were meant to come up, and that you can deal with them a lot better if you are doing the inner work and creating some kind of routine and structure for yourself to make sure that you're staying emotionally and physically grounded. So this is a really long message, but that felt important. So that is what I have for you, Capricorn rising and sun. If this resonates, I would love to see how it applies to your life. If you comment down below, that's the best part about YouTube, is that I get to read all your comments. If you want a relationship analysis reading, this is something I'm offering temporarily. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch the intro. But basically, this is only going to be available to a select number of people, a very small number of people. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can check that out in the description down below before they sell out. And if you want a normal reading or coaching from me, that's also linked there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends so more people can see this and hopefully be helped by it. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius, rising and sun. So this Venus retrograde will happen in your 7th house of relationships. And the first 2 cards I pulled were the 9 of Swords and 5 of Swords. So I definitely feel like you guys are going to be entering into a little bit of a period of time where you are experiencing more disagreements in your relationships, more sleepless nights, worry, kind of feeling like we're disconnected. And if you haven't watched my overview, definitely go ahead and tune into that, because Venus retrograde is a time in which a lot of relationships will break down if there are underlying issues that are not resolved, that are ignored. And I think you'll really start to kind of see them come to light. And I think it will be maybe something that gives you, again, a little bit of anxiety because of this sense of disagreement or conflict. I also have the She Who Aches card, sadness, solitude, silent withdrawal. So I think many of you guys could be experiencing maybe silent treatment more often in your dynamic. Maybe you feel like certain relationships are making you want to withdraw, or there is a separation happening with you and somebody else, or even just any important relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic one. It doesn't have to be just friends. It could be any kind of relationship. So I think many of us will see that there is just a strong feeling of disconnection happening and disagreement that is going to make you want to separate. So that's one of the main messages that's coming up. Another message that I see is really around something in regards to, something in regards to your childhood, because I did pick up the 6 of Cups. And it's really talking about revisiting the past. And I find it interesting that it's next to the 4 of Swords, which has a lot to do with being in a state of almost like meditation or reflection, where we're kind of pulling away from the world, which again really makes sense with that solitude energy. And so there might be something from like memory lane or from our childhood that gets brought up that you are taking the time out to reflect upon, that you are really, again, in solitude thinking about or feeling, or maybe it's something that is brought up from the past in certain relationships that you are really kind of sitting with and thinking about, and maybe recuperating some of your energy or contemplating the future of the relationship or how to go about some of these things. But it definitely feels like a lot of thinking about the past in relationships, and maybe even your childhood. It doesn't have to go that far back, but it's definitely like, okay, what has happened before? Let's bring up these issues from the past and we're going to address them. We're going to deal with them head on. And sometimes maybe that is something that you're going to disagree on, or you're not going to necessarily always have an easy resolution of all of this stuff. And some of you could break up, but the ones that are meant to be together will find a way out of this energy, will find more connection as a result of addressing these things. And it's really going to make the foundation of the relationship stronger because of your ability to address things that have kind of been accumulating over time from the past, maybe few years or however long you've been with somebody or been in a relationship with them in any kind of dynamic. And it's really like, okay, let's address this head on. But in order to do that, you have to go inward. You have to reflect. You have to connect with yourself and spend time alone. And then you approach those things from the past with more discernment and more wisdom. I also pulled the Queen of Wands. So I think that this is ultimately going to help you become more independent and more confident in yourself, as a result of whatever relationship changes you do undergo. And this just means that you're resolving things in your relationships, but you're really growing as a person because of that. Like, you are becoming more in touch with your own great qualities. And that's Venus retrograding Leo, no matter what house it is trying to help us become more confident and courageous, because those are just inherent Leo qualities, to love ourselves more, to value ourselves, to support ourselves. And for some of you, that could look like leaving a relationship and knowing what's best for you and standing up for yourself in that way. And for other people, it's, really fighting for the healthiest relationship dynamic that supports that self-image and confidence that you really deserve. You might also find that people from your past come up at this time, that you might find when Venus is direct, that you start to meet new people as well, that you feel more social because, of course, Venus spending so much time in the 7th house, it's really giving you, whenever it's direct, it's really giving you a longer period of time to create the necessary relationships and improve them, so that you can feel just like you're more connected. So you're not only more independent and confident, but you're also more connected, which is really beautiful. So that's more so when it goes direct. So that's not so much about retrograde. The retrograde is more so about healing issues in the relationships. I also pulled the 4 of Pentacles, which is talking about scarcity, and saving money. And I think this is something that's pretty much true for everyone. When Venus goes retrograde, it's not necessarily the time to make these big spending choices. And so this is a good time to save your money, to think long term. And this is also in relationship with other people. You maybe don't want to sign a bunch of contracts, because 7th house is our contract house. So maybe don't, if you can help it, don't try to buy a house at that period of time, or sign a new job contract without really reading all the fine print and feeling comfortable with this financial transaction or whatever is involving money. So this is a time to act conservatively with your money, to think long term, and to maybe put a pause on these bigger kind of spending activities, and not think with scarcity. You might already be thinking with scarcity, but think with security. And I think that's the best message coming through with the Venus retrograde. On top of that, we have the Hanged Man in reverse, which is talking about delays, resistance, stalling, and indecision. So there may be some things in your life that you feel like you're not ready to decide, especially within your relationships or even around money. And you're feeling like you're kind of tossing up lots of options. You're thinking about all these different possibilities, but you're not really sure where you want to go or what you want to do or how to go about it. And so the Venus retrograde period is going to help you understand more of what you value, what you really, really want, and what you really, really need in a relationship with somebody, or in anything that you're trying to purchase and commit to, or in any agreement that you're trying to sign. It's like, what do I really, really value and need? And then that eventually, once we come into Venus direct on September 3rd, we will have the opportunity for you to maybe not have so much indecisiveness or resistance, and you'll be able to see what is really best for you and move forward with confidence in yourself, knowing that you made the right decision because you've taken the time out to analyze, to look back at the past, to assess your relationships, and you feel like you know exactly what you're doing moving forward when it does turn direct. The last card that I have for you, which is your animal guiding you throughout this retrograde period, is the Peacock card, which is, of course, a card that really feels like the Queen of Wands to me. So I feel like you guys are coming into a period in which you are shining a little bit brighter. And this retrograde period might challenge you, but ultimately it will help you come in contact with what is most beautiful and sublime in your connections with other people. And so this is first our own ability to see that beauty and serenity and confidence and sexiness and happiness within ourselves. And then we will be able to connect with others like that. So the more that you can embody this self-love, honoring yourself, having integrity for yourself, facing your life with courage, with confidence, with conviction, knowing what you want, knowing what you deserve, that's what this period of time is about for you. And your relationships are that playground in which you are learning those lessons if you don't have them already. And ultimately, once you come out of this, you'll be able to attract an amazing dynamic or amazing contract or amazing abundance because you're feeling your own worthiness and you're standing up for that. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. If that resonates, please let me know by commenting down below. I love to read your comments and they just kind of make my day, honestly. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends so more people can get help from this video. And if you want a reading from me, I'm offering for a limited time a relationship analysis reading, also limited quantity because there's really only so many I can do. I might bring it back at some point, but I might not. So if you're interested in this, definitely grab it now before it sells out. And of course, I still offer coaching for a limited number of people as well, and my readings, which is available for everyone. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right. And last but not least, we have my Pisces rising and sun. So for you guys, this Venus retrograde is happening in your 6th house. And it's interesting because I'm getting a very specific message in the cards, but I'm just going to kind of talk about what Venus retrograde in the 6th house means first, and then we'll get into the tarot. So with a retrograde in the 6th house, sometimes we can start to question some of our routines, some of the ways that we have maybe committed to certain responsibilities or certain jobs, and we might pull back a little bit from those and reassess what we really value. Do we value this job? Do we feel like we're moving forward in life? Do we feel like it's supporting our self-image and who we want to become? If you have other responsibilities or even ways of managing your health, this retrograde is really asking you to look at the way that you do those. So how much sleep do you get at night? What kind of food do you eat? What is your routine? And is that something that's really working for you? Or does there need to be adjustments? And again, this also goes with any responsibilities you have. Maybe you have a pet, for example, which is a 6th house ruled topic, and you decide to get a pet, which I wouldn't recommend during a Venus retrograde. I would not make any purchases, especially for something like a pet that soon. But let's say you decide to get a pet and you realize that the pet isn't blending into your home very well, or it's providing more issues, and you have to kind of reassess how you go about taking care of your responsibilities and your life because you've added something new into that it requires your life to adjust around it. Again, I wouldn't really add a new responsibility like that during a Venus retrograde. I wouldn't really want to get a new job during a Venus retrograde unless it has something to do with a past event or something that you've been wanting for a really long time. Then I would say that then go for it. But for the most part, adding some new things to the table is not necessarily the best, but it's usually the best time to review our way or manner of going about taking care of things in our life and our health and our routine and our work. And if there are ways that you live your life that need adjustment, it's like, okay, let's look at that and let's make those adjustments. And usually it's about adjusting in a way that reflects more of the sense of worthiness and confidence and creativity because Venus is retrograding in Leo. So, okay, that's one of the messages. Something else that's coming through for you guys in the cards is, first of all, I pulled the King of Wands in reverse. And this is talking about having these like high expectations, which I think is very interesting. Then we have the Emperor in reverse, and this is talking about inflexibility and having kind of like power and being dominating. And then we have the King of Cups, which is talking about things that are unrealistic or being even moody as well. So there is a very clear message to me that is coming through around some of you guys maybe having expectations that are too high, that are rigid, that are unrealistic, that need to be adjusted. And the sixth house, Venus transiting through our sixth house, has a lot to do with, like I said, our, kind of work routine, our responsibilities, but it also has a lot to do with our mental health and what's going on inside of our minds. And I feel like there's something in your life, either just something that you've been thinking about lately, or maybe something to do with work or responsibilities, that you're having unrealistic expectations with. And this could also be something in terms of you working with other people, because the sixth house is a lot about teamwork and collaborative efforts. But I think you guys will probably know what it is. But when Venus goes retrograde, I think that your expectations of others or expectations of your job or even of yourself, where you've maybe been in control and having really high unrealistic ideals, I think those are going to come crashing down to some extent, and you're going to maybe have a little bit of a reality check in some ways. And this is also very Piscean in nature, is to see things for kind of their potential and not always see things as reality has them, as reality dictates. And the sixth house can be sometimes a very humbling house where we have to put in a lot more work, or things are not as easy or as fast as we would want them to be. And so you guys might be kind of like checked a little bit in terms of your effort and thinking that you're just going to, jump 10 steps, or that relationship is just going to be perfect, or, whatever it is. I don't really know what your expectations are, what it's about per se, but there's something where you guys, I think, are really going to have to come to terms with what's actually happening right here, right now. And I find it interesting too, because this whole line of cards that I have set out is ended with the sea serpent, which has a lot to do with this kind of karmic cycle. It's like this never ending cycle, really, of life. Like the head eats the tail and it continues on in this circle. And there's something that I feel like this situation has come up in your life before. I feel like it's saying that this is really revisiting something from the past, or this is a karmic pattern that you've been repeating. But there's something about this that's not new, that you guys are ultimately going to be confronting. So I think that when this Venus retrograde happens, it may feel humbling in some ways, but it's also helping you break the cyclical pattern, and it's going to be very freeing in other ways. So I think this is going to help you turn your sights towards things that are very practical. And I think it's going to help strengthen you and understand what real power and leadership is. Because this Emperor card in reverse, I feel like there's something about wanting to have the say, or wanting to have control over something, or not being flexible with something, that you're using your power almost in a way that's not necessarily doing you any favors, or isn't the healthiest or best way of expressing that. And I think what this Venus retrograde is going to do is help you understand and come into a relationship with the best, healthiest version of power and strength for you in your life. And I think that's going to be going about by, first of all, you realizing how to have maybe more conservative and security driven expectations. So I think right now you might have very lofty expectations of something in your life, or even a person or relationship. There's something in your life where I feel like you're putting a lot onto that and really seeing it as being better or bigger than it is. And this Four of Pentacles is saying, let's actually think more conservatively. Let's think more security driven. What is the minimum amount we need to survive? What is the basics that we need in a relationship? And this is not to say to Because the Venus retrograde in Leo is really about becoming confident and owning our worth and owning our gifts and standing tall and staying proud. But for you, I feel like this has a lot to do with your leadership and your power. And sometimes sometimes when we're a leader and we have lots of power, we have influence over our lives or other people's lives, it's like sometimes we need to, it's like really we need to get back to the foundations of something. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, don't have expectations and expect the bare minimum from people. But sometimes when you have lots of power, it's actually more helpful to focus on the important foundations of something rather than somebody checking all of the boxes and going above and beyond at all times. And this is in your relationship with people or in your job or in your life, like feeling like you're just trying to make yourself have the strongest foundations possible. And then everything on top of that is a blessing and is beautiful and you're looking forward to it, but you're not unhappy without those superfluous things. Then that's kind of, I hope this makes sense. That's kind of how I see this being, as you guys maybe focusing a little bit more on how do I create maybe financial security for myself? How do I act responsibly and maybe not have the highest ideals for my job? For example, like let's say you want to quit your job and you don't have enough money. It's like, let's not have unrealistic expectations that if we quit our job that we're just going to be fine and that nothing is bad is going to happen just because we have faith. Like we need to have things lined up. We need to focus on security. We need to focus on our foundations. And then things on top of that, like doing something that you're really passionate about, that you really love, those things can come after your foundational needs are met. And I think that's what it's trying to bring you back towards is like, what do I really, really need in this situation? How can I bring myself back down to earth to see how to create this foundation and security for myself and act almost from like a conservative, again, security standpoint where we're saving our money, where we're thinking long-term and we're not making maybe impulsive decisions or being overconfident or we're having too much hubris that if we just trust that things are going to work out. I think this Venus retrograde is like that can like trusting can work for you in many ways, but not if you're not also trying to take care of your foundations. If you're just like throwing caution to the wind with everything in your life, things can fall through the cracks and ultimately it can lead to some downfall. So it's really trying to get you to have a lot of like focus on maybe being practical in some ways and valuing that practicality, which Venus retrograde is again trying to really get us to reassess our values. But in Leo, I think for you, it's so much about your like leadership energy. And I don't know what area of life this pertains to per se, but I find it interesting that the next card I pulled was the Strength card, which is of course has a lion, which is very Leo. But there's something about Venus in Leo in particular that I think it's really trying to bring out like your strength and your courage and your confidence and your conviction as a leader. And sometimes that comes from being very grounded in reality and the realistic kind of constraints that there are in life. So, you know, a leader knows exactly what the potential downfalls are and they prepare their people for that. Or you prepare the people that you're in charge of, even if that's just yourself and your pets, for the potential downfall or for like really being aware of what can go wrong in life so that you are secure and prepared for that and not just like having unrealistic expectations that are not grounded. So this is really trying to become a strong leader of yourself, of your family, of your pets, of your workplace, where you are very aware of what is coming and you are grounding into the highest potential while also preparing for difficulties and making sure that your foundations will always be protected and safe and secure despite what could come. And that's going to look different for everyone, but that's really, really important here. I have the leadership, provocation, and power cards. So this is very much talking about everything I just said, you guys stepping into your power. And the way that you do that is by also grounding into the present of what is here right now and also even into the future of what could go wrong. I know that sounds weird, but being too like happy and like optimistic can be a downfall. And this is one of those cases where sometimes Pisces can lean that way. So it's like, how do we have both? How do we have that optimism and really trusting the universe while also being grounded in the potential risks and preparing for those? The last card that I have is really the card that is guiding you throughout your Venus retrograde, and this is the dolphin spirit animal. And this is about having peace and harmony. It talks about being creative, which is very much Venus and Leo energy. Creative, joyful, graceful, compassionate, intelligent, generous, and protective. It symbolizes cooperation and freedom. So I think that this is really interesting that it's bringing up the protective element, because I feel like there's something here where you're needing to protect your foundational security. That is super, super important. You're meant to use your intelligence to think ahead and to also utilize your relationships and working with others. This is a 6th house transit. Utilize the way that you work with others to give yourself the best possible results. So that's also important. And then also like joy and peace and grace and compassion, cooperation, freedom, all those things I feel like are things that you're going to gain as a result of grounding into reality and doing the inner work that you need to do in this transit to be prepared as a leader and to be prepared as somebody who will work with others in life. Because I really feel like it's calling you to that to some degree, and you're going to be a better leader working with others when you've gone through this process already. You will be more compassionate. You'll be more joyful and graceful and peaceful because you know that your foundations are safe. You know that your future is safe. You know how you want to operate as a leader. And then you can approach the relationship with a lot more joy and ease because you know that your bases are covered, and now you can just use this energy for positivity. So I hope that's making sense. I know that was like a big message. So if this resonates, and if you notice these next 6 weeks for Venus retrograde impacting you in that way, I would really, really love to hear it in the comments down below, or another way that you interpret this message of having it retrograde in your 6th house. If you want a reading from me, you can check me out at willisbloom.com. I will link my temporary limited time reading for a relationship analysis in the description box down below. And again, this is really a limited quantity that I'm doing particularly for this Venus retrograde. So if you're interested, definitely purchase that before they sell out. My other seasonal readings have sold out in the past. And if you're interested in just coaching, I do offer that as well, and a normal astrology reading. So thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye.